Ghostly greetings, one and all, and welcome back to the Council of Elrond, a Lord of the Rings podcast brought to you by us, the Mellon Heads, where we discuss all things Lord of the Rings. And this week, we're actually recording on Halloween, so happy Halloween, everyone.
Halloween.
And to celebrate this week, we decided to discuss what our top 5 scariest moments from all of Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings movies were. Now, this could be anything. These could be scenes, character moments, creatures, whatever. So we aren't including moments from the books because we could be here all day, and perhaps we could do that in a later episode, but there are so many from the film trilogy alone. And of course, we would love to know what all your favorite scary moments from the trilogy are also, so please, after you've left us a like, drop a comment and let us know. I'm Dave, and I'm joined as always by my brother and co-host, Johnny.
Hello.
Hello there. So quick thank you to all of our patrons, and a special thank you to Jack Knightley. And also, guys, don't forget to subscribe to us on YouTube, and while you're there, drop us a like because that helps us with the algorithm. So let's get into it. This time we did something similar before where we talked about our favorites, like top 10 favorite things in Middle Earth and just like random stuff. So this week myself and Johnny have compiled a list each, and we haven't seen what those lists are. So I've got my top 5 scary things. You've got your top 5 scary things.
I've got it here. You can't look.
Yeah, I've got mine in here. So don't
right.
look.
No peeking.
No peeking. But of course, some of these might cross over and they might be the same. But
I'm sure we'll probably have a few that will overlap.
I think we might have one that'll definitely overlap. But
more than one. Anyway.
Do you want to do the
probably
honors?
number 1 might overlap even.
Yeah, I think mine might. I think we both know what's coming.
Yeah.
Do you want to start?
Sure.
Get us going.
Yeah.
Get the ball
Let's
rolling.
do it. Let's get into this Halloween fever. So we're going to start in descending order, I suppose. So it's top 5. So we'll go from our 5, meaning the not quite so scary, to number 1, the scariest. And I say not quite so scary because I think there was more. We could have done a list of top 10s even, really, but 5, even number 5 is quite scary.
But all day.
For me, my number 5 is just the character of Gollum.
Okay.
I put in 2 specific moments that definitely I jumped at, or I got freaked out by, or had some sort of nightmares about over the years. The first one was when he's first introduced at the beginning of the Two Towers movie, when the 2 hobbits are sleeping, and in Emyn Will, and he's crawling down the rock face, and he's almost spiderish in his movements in that moment. He's kind of like, they're thieves. So that was really freaky. I remember seeing that and be like, oh my god, it's so scary. And I was surprised how brave the hobbits were when they just took him on. So that was kind of cool. And then my other moment of Gollum was Gollum mid-transformation into what he is now, which is like at the beginning of the Return of the King movie, when they show him being cast out and he's crawling into the heart of the mountain, and it shows there's one part where the camera slowly zooms up and he turns around and has this reveal of his horrible disfigured face, and
that whole scene is disgusting.
Eating the raw fish and all that stuff. That was my other moment of Gollum where he's kind of freaky.
And we've talked about that scene before in terms of the actual music and the sound production for just that kind of weird, I don't know, eerie noise in the background for his whole transformation, and then him kind of narrating over it, being like murder, and I can't remember what he says, but that's such a. And the way they do that, it's really cool how they have the special effects where it's Andy Serkis, and at one point he looks almost on the verge of becoming Gollum, and he closes his eyes, and then when
stringy hair.
When he opens up his eyes again, they're the Gollum special effects eyes, so they're big ones.
Yeah, but before he closes them, they're just white, just the white of his eyes.
Yeah, but when he closes it, it's just Andy Serkis's closing eyes. But then you notice when they're open again, it's CGI eyes.
Yeah, CGIs.
CGI. Yeah, so that's really cool. That's a cool moment, and the character of Gollum is quite terrifying. Yeah. That was very sneaky of you to take a whole character. Very sneaky indeed.
Murder called us. They cursed us and drove us away.
Right, so I'm going to go for my number 5, which would be, this would be a moment, I suppose, and something that terrified me, especially the first couple of times of watching The Lord of the Rings, but still kind of freaks the bejesus out of me now, is the troll, the cave trolls searching for Merry and Pippin. That scene, of course, where they're hiding behind the pillar, and this happens in lots of movies where the camera is one way and you're like, okay, I think I'm safe. And then the character kind of runs around the opposite side while looking the other way. And then you could just see the troll coming out and frightening the crap out of them. Yeah, that
Well,
part
I
for
mean,
me,
you mean when he's after Frodo?
Oh, sorry, it's a Frodo.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, it's Frodo. It's Frodo. It's Frodo. And you could actually, that's one thing that you notice in it when he's looking for Frodo. After Merry and Pippin have split from Frodo, and then just before that jump scare of the troll coming around the pillar, you can see Merry and Pippin in the background, and they're just looking in a different direction, and you kind of feel a little bit safe. And then the troll just comes around and goes.
For me, yeah, I mean, obviously they proper get you. It's a good jump scare in that moment, but I think for me, whenever I watch that film back, I feel almost like it's almost a mistake in the fact that. As in, but like Merry and Pippin are just, they're looking a different way, and that's intentionally to throw the viewer off to think, oh, the troll's gone that way. But it's like in the real world, like you can see them in the background and they're not looking anywhere near where the troll is actually currently standing and like about to get Frodo. So I think in a real life situation, they would be shouting towards the camera at Frodo saying, he's coming that way, be careful.
Maybe, but like they're also looking at a big battle that's going on.
I'm sure the battle was,
like
Mickey Mouse stuff there.
Yeah, I know what you mean, but I definitely don't think it's a mistake.
No, not a mistake. I just think, well, as I said, like I thought that if that was real life, they wouldn't be looking away. I think they were completely looking away deliberately in order to make you more scared for that jump scene. But it worked out really well. It scared the Jesus out of both of us, I'm sure. Yeah. Many times. So
it's one of those scenes that every time you watch it, you still get freaked out, and every time Frodo's just like shifting around the pillar, you're like, no, the other way.
Go the other way.
Yeah,
Frodo.
There's nothing worse when someone's like shifting around a tiny little object like a pillar. I'm like, just get away from it. I know it's just a wall in front of him, but I would have done one of those, those. Do you know when you watch a scary movie and then you're like running to bed when you're on your own, you're like turning off all the lights on your way. Yeah, that's what I would have done if I were Frodo.
Scary. Yeah, lots of jump scares in Lord of the Rings as well.
Indeed.
So I'll move on to my number 4 now. My number 4 was Helm's Deep, but a specific moment in Helm's Deep.
Can I guess?
You can.
I didn't have one in my head, but let me think. Is it?
I'll give you a moment for pity's sake.
At Helm's Deep, it's not Gimli hitting that orc in the balls with his axe. No?
That's not scary. That's
terrifying. Okay. No, seriously.
The Berserker.
Yeah, the Berserker.
Gets me like the midriff, I think.
He catches the gooch.
It was a huge axe.
Yeah. Okay, let me see. I'm gonna say, is it the terror, like the scene of like all the Uruk-hai outside banging their pikes on the ground and showing the people inside.
I called it Helm's Deep Uruk's spear thumping. That's what I called it. The title of this one.
Spear thumping.
And I love
You've
that.
got titles. I don't have.
Well,
titles.
I just wrote. That's just what I wrote down to remind myself in my head.
Sure, my title wasn't even correct. Troll searching for Merry and Pippin.
I had to correct you and tell you actually you were searching for Frodo. Merry and Pippin were just hanging around in the background.
Yeah. Well.
But I love that scene because, well, first of all, just the way the Uruks arrive and they're all marched up, and then the guy does that like kind of thing, standing up on top of the rock with his sword, and they all just stop. And there's this like silence, and then they just start thumping the spears, like, and they're getting louder and louder. And the camera keeps flashing over back to the women and children in the cave,
and just hearing the echo.
Yeah, the faces of the men up on top of the wall. Everyone's freaking out, and like when you see the children and women in the back, you can just see what's like how high the stakes are as well. You can just feel like, oh my god, this is such an important moment. It's such a terrifying and terrible moment. And it just increases the tension hugely. And then also, obviously, when that guy shoots the arrow a bit too early, kind of jumps the gun, and then it kills one Uruk, he falls down, and just this complete silence. That silence is even more deafening again. So just that whole scene, you're like, oh my god.
It's one of those things as well. I've always kind of had it in the back of my mind. If that guy didn't accidentally release the arrow, I wonder, would they have come to like
packed up and turned around and gone away?
Just like had like diplomatic negotiations and be like, so we're here, but like, if you surrender your king, we'll leave you all alone. But no, they didn't get that opportunity. And that camera angle showing that orc that like has his mouth open really, really wide.
You get a proper look at his molars. Yeah.
No,
I don't think so, because as we know, the army was bred to destroy the world.
Of course, I know, but
it's funny.
It's one of those things. It's like they were coming here, and all they were doing was a bit of chanting, and then some guy accidentally releases an arrow, and now everything's gone to shite.
Yeah, they're just getting ready to watch a game of rugby. They're doing the haka. And they were like just doing their exercise, their warm up, and then suddenly some asshole shot one of them in the neck with an arrow. And they were like, right, that's it. We're gonna kill you all now.
Fun fact, in case you guys didn't hear the episode before, but they created the sound of all those Urukai marching and stomping and chanting by Peter Jackson got a bunch of, was it? Yeah, it was just a bunch of people into a stadium in New Zealand and got them to chant Ajgul, Najgul. No?
Yeah.
Whatever, I don't know what the exact lyrics of their chanting are.
That sounds like the
sounds
ring.
like the ring,
The
yeah.
ring.
Azdag.
But now I don't know if it was for that part or maybe it was for
Najgul.
both. It was definitely for the part where Saruman comes out of Orthanc and he looks at the army of like in the tens of thousands, as Grima says, and then in that scene where you hear all that noise,
Nashgu, I think that's it.
yeah, something like that.
Like that.
And there was some guy with like a giant, like phonetically written screen, and everyone was just like chanting along with it.
Yeah.
Who were the people though? Was it
It's like
like
Bobby McFarlane out there
Bobby McFarlane,
doing a little concert. Who are the people? I think, were they rugby players?
It could have been something like sports people or
It was
something.
something.
Look it up yourselves.
Don't you
Let
love
us
when
know.
you give a fun fact and you don't have any of the facts of the fun
Exactly,
fact?
yeah.
And
It
it's
was
not fun.
I thought it was fun.
I thought it was fun. Okay, well, yeah, no, the direction of that scene alone makes it all scary because, as you said, you've got the orcs chanting intercutting with the people's fear inside. Like, you feel like they're in a safe place, but then when you can hear the echoes, you're like, oof, it's not that safe at all.
Got a bit scared there.
Got a bit scared. So I've gone for my number 4 as just the minds. Minas Morgul music and scene in general. But yeah, definitely the
Going
music.
for all the M's there. Minas Morgul music
Yeah,
and madness.
Minas Morgul is, as we know from the books, it's absolutely terrifying, and just as a place in Middle Earth, it's just a terrifying place. But the way they do it in the movie, I think they show the terror with, or you can hear the terror with Howard Shore's theme, that like really high pitched screechy music, and especially when the Nazgul and the Witch King emerge, and it's just all terrifying. And I was going to put in, now I didn't put this in as one of my scary things, but just the stair going up to Shelob's lair, like
That's not how you pronounce the stair.
the stair,
It's pronounced.
the stairs.
No, I'm saying in your Gollum voice.
Basta. Yeah, but like that stairs is terrifying for anyone that has vertigo or is afraid of heights in any sort of way. But
Or it's just a bit clumsy.
yeah,
If you're a bit of a clumsy person and stairs aren't your best friend, that stair looks horrifying.
do you ever see those people that are like mountain climbers but they basically scale completely vertical walls, and it's like how we sleep at night, and they have to like build a sleeping bag that like hangs. Yeah, the way Frodo, and like that is terrifying to me. And the way Frodo and Sam have to just sleep there, and Gollum have to all sleep on this tiny slab that, like, you know, if you rolled over, you don't fall off the bed, you fall to your death.
Yeah,
I think that's pretty scary, but I wasn't sure. Yeah, that was the first thing I thought of, but then I was like, actually, Minas Morgul in general, and all the like camera shots of the
gargoyles,
the gargoyles, with their tongues out, and
the music. Actually, you know what? In this list, I didn't put down any like music themes or anything like that. That's a cool idea, because like that scene where we're getting the camera just kind of zooming up close into the face of the gargoyles and stuff, and they're all like, what's the name of that technique?
with the tilted camera.
Yeah, it's like the Dutch angle or something like that, I think it's called.
Dutch oven.
I think it's called a Dutch angle or a Dutch something, where the camera is askew and the angle is off, and it just makes you feel uncomfortable as well.
It's unnerving,
and just it's unnerving, yeah. So that was really cool as well. Also, something I was going to say there now, and I completely forgot. It's completely slipped my mind.
But the music.
Music.
Were you going to? I'm trying to actually think of how that music goes. It's that like.
Yeah, something like that.
And also then just seeing like the hordes of orcs coming out of there, you're like,
oh, I was gonna say, I know we said we weren't gonna mention any book stuff, but one of my favorite quotes of all of Tolkien's writings is a quote that I don't remember, but but I have it written down in my notes on my phone. But it's describing the visual appearance of Minas Morgul when they're out, and it starts with like paler indeed, words or something, and then it was like
it's a sickly pale, isn't that
a deathly oh god,
oh, look it up.
So I don't know. You
Okay.
look it up there.
I'll look it up while you're giving
While
us the next one.
Okay, but it's a class out quote.
I'm pretty sure sickly pale comes into that quote.
But look, it starts with paler indeed for sure.
Oh, okay.
I'm very sure. Of
You
that.
can read out.
Just
your
look
next
up
one.
Minas Morgul paler indeed, and then we'll get back to these fine folks in a moment. So my number 3 was
Three.
was like you went from Minas Morgul. Mine was another just area, which was Shelob's Lair.
Oh yeah, you
mean-
took one from me. Yeah.
Did you get the?
Yeah.
Because you put up a tweet a few days ago, like maybe a week ago, when it was like, we're coming up to Halloween. So you put up a tweet a few days ago saying like which of these like 4 places on Twitter, you put up the thing saying which 4 places, if you had to spend the night, would you spend the night? And you put up like the Tower of Orthanc, like on the
that's
pinnacle.
another one. If you're like, if you have vertigo, like, would you want to be up there? No.
Up on the pinnacle, that you said Shelob's Lair. You said Minas Morgul.
Yes.
And what else did you say?
Barrow Downs, was it?
Barrow Downs, yeah. Exactly. I remember just like looking at that, and Shelob's Lair was one of those. I was just like, shite though. I'm not staying there.
Like even
no
if
chance.
there was no Shelob in there, or even any creepy crawl, it's just
it's horrifying.
disgusting.
And you've got loads of like just dead webbed animals around.
Yeah,
so that's gross. But like, I mean, I was like, definitely not Shelob's Lair, and definitely not in the Barrow Downs. I was like, I'd take my chances in Minas Morgul, or even take my chances. Well, no, I'd definitely take my chances on the pinnacle, because I mean, it's just you have to face the elements, I suppose. And,
I know, but the
like,
way they make
Sarah
it,
might just pop up for a visit and like be like,
and throw you off.
he might throw you off, or you just like dangle you off the end. But that could be kind of cool as well.
But even just the rain in that scene makes me go, oh god, that just looks like
But
when
Gandalf's like his little, like his blanket thing that he has. It kind of,
No,
whenever I
it's
see
no
him like
good.
wrap it up, I know it's probably all soggy, but I just think it looks kind of cozy in there.
No, what that reminds me of now is when you're in Galway and you've just come out of a nightclub at 2:00 in the morning, and you have to wait outside for your taxi for an hour and a half, and it's pissing rain, and there's nowhere to go, and the guards are shooing you along, and you just have to stand there in the cold rain. But yeah,
It's tough times.
Ireland, it's a great country for tourism. Anyways, do you want me to read out this little quote?
Yeah.
So, for anyone that wants to hear a sickly quote about Minas Morgul, here we go.
Does it start with Paler indeed?
That's in it, but it doesn't start with that.
That's the part that I start with.
Do you want me to start from there? Because then it's
Sure.
a very small quote.
Yeah, it's only a short quote.
Okay, then. Paler indeed than the moon ailing in some slow eclipse was the light of it now, wavering and blowing like a noisome exhalation of decay, a corpse light, a light that illuminated nothing.
Yeah.
That light.
That's
That
one of my
light that
favorite.
illuminated nothing. That's cool.
Just a noisome
A noisome exhalation of decay.
exhalation of decay. I mean, that's such great writing. And then like that, the idea of a light, like a deathly light, a light that illuminates nothing.
A corpse light. A
corpse
light
light.
that illuminated nothing.
That is so good.
That is deep, man.
I know. I've read that quote so many times, and I still just can't remember because I'm like, my brain can't fathom those kind of
I can't remember it
combination
now.
of words. Yeah, exactly. I've completely forgotten it. Please, somebody read it back to us. So yeah, that's sorry. We're jumping back to Morgul for a minute, but that's okay.
We're running around the place. But again, we talked about the music in Minas Morgul, but the music in Shelob's Lair. I remember when I was younger as well, and just going onto the piano, and I figured out you could play the Shelob theme by just banging away at the top keys, like without any sort of cohesive like knowledge of how the music goes, just going.
Oh, right.
The other way, it's all like high violins.
Yeah.
That music is great as well, and it definitely encapsulates
Terrifying
what
as
a big giant spider is chasing after you. Oh God, those scenes.
Yeah, but you just get like you can feel it in your chest, just the nerves when you're like when those like high strings come in and like you're like, just.
And again, playing the game, the Return of the King game in Shelob's Lair, that was freaky. And the game, that level, there could be 2 levels in there, and it's much longer than the scene in the Return of the King, and it's just as freaky.
Yeah.
So.
Proper freaky. Good stuff. So that's number 3
So
for me.
that's your number 3. So my number 3, by the way, Shelob's Lair for me was number 2. So
Alright.
we'll have to, maybe I can shove something else in there. But anyways,
I think we both. Well, I wrote down a couple of honorable mentions anyway. So
Right.
if you have one or two of those, you can put one in there.
so for me, my number 3 was just the Nazgul in general in the Fellowship of the Ring movie, because this is when they're most mysterious. They've got their black cloaks. You don't know who they are. They're just referred to as Black Riders are black riders, and they have also these terrifying beasts that they ride around. And then we get like probably one of the scariest moments in all the movies where the hobbits have to hide from the Nazgul, who is apparently, remember we found out this recently, that Nazgul is not the Witch King.
It's Camul.
It's Camul, yeah. That's mad.
In the scene where he goes to Hobbiton and he talks to not to Bill Ferny, he talks to, who's he speak to?
Is it not Bill Ferny? No,
not Bill Ferny.
Oh, Fatty Bulger.
Fatty maybe tells him to feck off or something.
That wouldn't be like Fatty, no.
No, who the hell is it? Farmer Maggot, isn't it?
Oh, right, okay, Farmer Maggot.
Yeah.
So this is Camul the Easterling who becomes a Nazgul, for anyone that doesn't know what we're talking about. But that I think
Farmer Maggot. He tells him to clear off or something, and Farmer Maggot in the book is so much cooler than in the movie we don't get to see much of him.
Just get to see his pickle.
It's not his pickle. His sickle. His scythe or his sickle. His pickaxe.
God, imagine if we got to see his pickle. That's the rated R version.
See his mushrooms. No, but I believe that you get to see him when he's chasing the hobbits. You don't get to see him; you just get to see his pickle, as David says.
His sickle or his scythe.
I do believe that the guy that says there's no Bagginses around here. They're all up in Hobbiton. And then the dog gets freaked out and comes back. I think he's supposed to be Farmer Maggot. I think he gets
because
in the credits as Farmer Maggot
as well. What's his dog's name? Chop? No. I'm getting mixed up between like the dog in Harry Potter and the dog in GTA. Okay. But he does have a name. He has a name. Do you know?
Well, look, I don't know it off the top of my head, so I'm sorry. You're not going to be getting any facts here. No. But I think he's supposed to be Farmer Maggot in the movies, at least. And so the Nazgul, we know that there was 5 Nazgul that were knocking around there, at least. But the Nazgul that has that dialogue with him, the Nazgul that has that dialogue is supposed to be Camul, the Easterling, which we spoke about in our episode about all the 9 rings and the Nazgul there a few weeks back. So go check that one out.
Yeah, but that whole, like the Nazgul in all of the Fellowship of the Ring, even when they're coming into the town and searching for the hobbits and they burst down the door, like that's such a terrifying scene as well.
In Bree, yeah.
Is that 4 Nazgul that come in? Because there's 4 beds.
Oh, that's a good point. Again, I'm getting confused between the books and the movies. It's hard to remember which number is accurate. But I think it's definitely 4 in that moment because there's 4 hobbits, so it would be good. At least I'm saying that's probably good for a movie aspect where we got to see the 4 beds and then the Nazgul stand around with them with all their blades and they're like raised up and they're stabbing them down. I think pretty much everybody probably thought when you watched that for the very first time, it's like they've just ran those hobbits through. Yeah, they're all dead. And that's it.
Again, it gets me every time. I always think it's kind of like when you watch The Lion King and you always believe that Mufasa will be saved or won't die, and every time he does. Spoilers.
It's like watching the end of season 1 of Game of Thrones as well. I don't think they're going to kill Ned.
Yeah. So, by the way, his 3 huge dogs were called Grip, Fang, and Wolf. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, Fang is also the name of Hagrid's dog in Harry Potter, but I'm not 100% sure. But
right, that makes sense. Well. I was going to say that I love that scene where they're about to stab the hobbits in the beds in Bree as well. I love that where all the memes that you have, like human resources wants you to see the difference between these two.
I was just thinking
the hobbits and the like big fluffy pillows, and then now you're just like, I don't see the difference.
Yeah, it is the same picture.
Yeah, that's class.
So that was my number 3.
That was your number 3. Well, that crosses over quite well. It doesn't cross over; it kind of steals over. But so for my number 2. It was also the Nazgul, but I had specifically said a different moment which you didn't mention, which was when the Nazguls are at Weathertop, which for me I think was one of the scariest moments of the first movie. I think the first movie is the most kind of horror movie out of all of them. Like it's class. And I remember specifically going to see that in the cinema, and like it was 12s, I think. So I remember like little kids that were like, it was 12's PG, I think. So that means if you were under 12, you could still go
or something, which is like
you could still go with a parent,
with an adult,
with parent supervision, you could still go. So there were definitely younger kids in there, like under 12. And I remember like kids crying, like running out of the cinema in that scene. And I mean a few times because I went to see it like 3 times in the cinema.
You just went there to see the kids crying, was it?
I was like, because see where the kids cry. I was the kid crying the first time, and then the next 2 times I was like, okay, well, other kids are going to cry.
Look at
Not
those
just me now.
idiot kids.
Yeah. And I actually, I made a mistake. I made a boo-boo because earlier I said I hadn't mentioned anything about the music, but I did write down here that the music in that scene is intense. Like the from the very beginning where, you know, Frodo wakes up and they're there cooking and making the nice crispy bacon. And then he like, put it out, you fools. And he stamps it and there's like silence. And then you like look over and you can see them. Not yet. There's this like violin run on the high strings. Like, and like when you see the Nazgul like for the first time, it's like, and then like you get that sort of,
yeah. And then seeing them emerge.
and then when they come in, first of all, you get that bum 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 bum, and it's so good. And then like, you know, the way they're all in formation, there's 5 of them, and they're in this kind of like semicircle, and they all do exactly the same thing with their swords, and they like put them at this angle where they're like this stabbing angle, and you're just like, how can anybody get away from that? Like, they're just so huge and imposing, and these tiny little hobbits.
Before they went up to Weathertop, do you think they all kind of meshed down below and were like, right, lads, so
Here's
we're
what we're
all
gonna
going to come in. I'm going to take the lead, and then we're all going to have our swords up.
Follow me.
And then at some point, I'm going to twist my sword and have it in a pointy, stabby stab motion, and you all have to do the same, and we'll be in tandem. So let's practice for a while, then we'll go in.
In your head, just count 5, 4, 3, 2, turn up an angle of the sword.
5, 6, 7, 8.
And attack.
You just see like one Nazgul pointing with his left hand, and he's like, oh, crap. Switcheroo. And that's also a terrifying scene when Frodo puts on the One Ring and gets to see them in their natural form for the first time. First and last time? Did you ever see that again in the movies? Is that the only time in all 3
we
movies?
see the Nazgul.
The Nazgul as like the kings.
Well,
Or
not
as the-
counting the Hobbit movies, yeah.
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 No, I really, we've talked about it before. I really like that scene from the Hobbit movies, just getting to see what they look like. But it's not the same thing. It's definitely more over the top CGI stuff. Because have you ever seen the behind the scenes of those masks that they made for the Nazgul when they're in the other world scene?
Yeah.
It's pretty freaky.
Yeah.
Whereas the Hobbit movies, they were probably like, let's just put a tennis ball on a pole there.
Put a big green mask on his head and we just shoot that.
I wonder, do they just like shoot or film a green wall and just have the camera move around and be like, now add it all in post?
We'll get that in post. Don't worry about it. We clean it up.
We got the shot. So very good. That
was
is
my number 2.
Yeah, that was your deuce.
That was my deuce.
That was your deuce. Yeah, I'd like to say that when I mentioned the Nazgul, I meant everything, including that scene.
You can't do that.
Well,
now.
you use Gollum.
I say Gollum, but I gave 2 specific moments.
Yeah, but I wanted to talk about the transformation of Gollum, but I guess that's out the window.
Well, you can't.
So, my number deuce has
Your new deuce.
my deuce is gone. So I'm gonna have to find another deuce in here in my honorable mentions, and I'm just gonna say the King of the Dead scenes and the whole build up to actually seeing any ghosts. I think is
Like when they're going into the
the mountain. And Legolas reading the inscription on the wall. Then I know there's a little bit of comedy with Gimli like running on the skulls, but is that only in the extended edition?
There's definitely loads more scenes, and like the part where the hands are come up and Gimli's like blowing them away. Like that's
kind of done for laughs, but
yeah,
and like I love it as well. I don't think it takes away from the movie at all. But I mean, is it the theatrical version that might just have only scary parts in there? And I know the theatrical part doesn't have the walls collapsing and all the skulls coming out. So that's one thing that they took away. But I mean, before you get to see any of the king, I think it's pretty terrifying. And also, when you do get to see the king and he has that deadly laugh where he just goes, and then like everything disappears or appears or whatever. Oh, it's so
that's
cool.
when everyone appears. Yeah.
He's got a deadly voice.
He does, yeah.
He says the line was broken.
The blind was broken.
Yeah, so I'll
tune into last week's episode to hear what that inside joke was about.
Yeah.
But that's a good one.
So yeah, I just think that all that scene. And actually, you get a little glimpse of the king earlier. Again, I don't know if this is the extended edition or not, but when
I know. I think that's
when Legolas and Aragorn, Legolas, and
Yeah.
Gimli look down the paths of the dead,
yeah.
and then you actually get to see the king of the dead, and it kind of zooms in on his face, and it's only very, very light.
Yeah, and then he just like disappears, and it's like,
And
can I
then-
see something there?
Aragorn, let's get some food.
Yeah, again. I mean, I know some people don't like the way that they use Gimli in the movies, and people were like, "Oh, it's disrespectful." You know, they just used him for comic purposes, and dwarves are supposed to be like, you know, really, well, you know, highly respected people and all that kind of stuff. But I still think it's great. Like, I still think like I never come out of the movies like not respecting Gimli enormously. Like, he's amazing.
He's a comic relief, but he's not a dumb, or he's not the butt of any joke. He's like
No.
he could have said that. He could have said, Aragorn, let's get some food, and the music could have been different, and it could have been just, you know,
Yeah, it's
not
like-
in such a serious motion.
He's like Roy Keane. Like, he can just say something and he's deadly serious, but it just sounds hilarious in the way he said it.
That line was broken.
So that was my number 2.
That was your number 2, right? Okay, cool.
Oh god,
Well,
here we go.
get down
I
to
think-
number 1. I'm pretty sure. Should we like doing like countdown from 3 and just both
Yeah.
maybe enact what I think we probably both know?
All right, so 3, 2, 1. Yes, of course, the hurrah moment with
Hurrah.
Bilbo Baggins. I think that has to be everyone's number
Oh
one.
yeah, I mean, scariest shit ever. Like,
And also we have to talk about Howard Shore's music there as well. The violins
oh.
just suddenly jumping up really high and
big swell. Like, yeah, it's class. It gets me every time.
Yeah, it gets me every time as well. And it's freaky. And there's so many memes of just that still image of Bilbo's face in that motion. And that's all CGI, I think, which is pretty good for...
Really?
I don't know. Is it not?
I mean, they might have got like
They made
bit of makeup on.
Yeah, they
and
might
then
have got
it
some
had like maybe
prosthetics
like.
and- But like
I
his
don't
teeth are all jagged, aren't
Oh,
they?
I mean the teeth. Yeah, that would be a thing. But I'm like the eye makeup that's like, you know, it's all just black around his eyes. So I'm sure they could have helped the CGI by doing a couple of shoot throughs with some makeup on or some sort of I don't know, you know, prosthetics or something. I don't
Yeah.
know. Maybe I've no idea. I haven't actually ever seen anything about the behind the scenes of that.
But just the way it's so
exact scene.
subtle as well. It's like it's a 1
And
second
it's just
shot.
also it's the character that it's Bilbo.
Yeah.
So we've gotten used to him
Dear
just being
old
this
Bilbo.
like lovable old, you know, cuddly granddad kind of character.
Yeah.
Like, Bilbo, look at her, he wouldn't hurt a fly. But
yeah.
so that adds to it as well. But I mean, years after having seen it for the very first time and having seen it multiple times every year for the last 20 years, I still just like when that scene's coming up, you're like, oh, here we go.
Yeah,
and you start
yeah.
to get a bit nervous. And then if I watch it now with my girlfriend, she still just she can't watch that scene. She always looks, and it's like anytime they first arrive in Rivendell, and she's like, "Oh my god, is this when Bilbo's?" And I'm like, "No, that's not right now. You know, you can relax for a little bit because there's a scene where it shows Bilbo.
Oh
at
yes,
one
when
point,
he's just sitting down.
yeah, and he's like, "My dear Frodo,"
Yeah.
and everything like that. And you see him there, and then my girlfriend's always like, "Oh my god, is this the part? Is this the part?" I'm like, "No, you can relax for like 20 minutes." And then 20 minutes later, I'm like, "Okay, you can look away now." So, classic.
Classic, yeah, absolutely classic. And it's kind of scary as well to think that Bilbo has been gone away for so long from the Shire, and he hasn't had the ring in his possession for so many years at this. Well, no, it's not years. It's so many months at this point, and he's changed dramatically. And you kind of think, oh, he's all well and good again, but it just shows that he's still kind of possessed, and he's still massively obsessed with this ring, and he gets to see it for the first time, and it's just freaky to know he has that flick of a switch inside of him.
Glow up.
That glow. But yeah, and hopefully, I think when the ring is destroyed eventually, that's when, you know, Bilbo would lose not his interest, but his obsession for the ring in a way. It still shows him at the end where he's like, "Any chance you have that old ring, my lad?" And he's like, "No, I must have forgotten or lost it."
I'm afraid I lost it, Uncle.
But yeah, good stuff. So those are, I knew that was going to be our number ones.
Yeah, I'm surprised we didn't have more crossovers apart from that.
Well, I mean, we did have Gollum's transformation in there, but I sneaked in.
Well,
Minas Morgul music was my second, or was my sixth option, I suppose.
Which?
Minas Morgul music and like the stair scene.
Right. Well, let's go through a couple of honorable mentions. So give me one other honorable mention.
I had 2 honorable mentions. And I used them.
I had like 5.
Yeah.
But no, one of my honorable mentions was just Minas Morgul. It's just a location.
Mm-hmm.
So we've already gone through that. Another one then was Witch King, which
Witch King?
Aragorn. I can't remember which one.
All right. Okay.
But, Galadriel.
Mm-hmm.
So just the Witch King as a character, because obviously he is terrifying. We get to see him when he's getting his new armor put on. That's class. He stabs Frodo at Weathertop. We get to see him, with Eowyn when he says, "Die now." That's class as well. Like the scene where she chops the head off the fell beast, and then it kind of just crumbles down, and he falls off.
When he
emerges. And he just stands up, and it's the first time you get to see his giant mace, and he's lifted it up. And it's like, I loved up, and it's like the camera just can't fit the whole thing in. It's just so huge.
That is a ridiculous weapon.
That's terrifying. I must seriously have to train biceps and triceps every day just to be able to lift that thing.
Oh my God. Well, you see him; he's just flailing it around. He's no control over it at all.
Flailing.
I did have one mention, but I kind of took it out, and it was just the look of Gothmog and which was apparently based on Harvey Weinstein.
Yeah,
which is kind of funny. But yeah, he's just a disgusting looking orc, and also. We talked about how the Fellowship of the Ring was probably the freakiest and most horror-like movie, but we never talked about seeing the orcs for the first time. And it must be weird back then. Was that your first glimpse of the orcs at all when they go into the Mines of Moria, and when they're all crawling down, and then you get to see like their eyes and like that? That's such a freaky scene. Like that one that just comes out and he's got huge eyes. The goblin.
The goblin. Yeah.
I know we get to see like at the start of the movie. There's the orcs and all that, but.
No, it's a good point. Yeah, I had again another one of my honorable mentions was the orcs or the goblin attack in Moria, because when they're all, when they run into the Chamber of Marzible and there's like they get completely surrounded, and then they hear the Balrog coming and they all just like scamper up the things. And again,
I was going to say we didn't talk about the Balrog at all.
We didn't talk about the Balrog. No,
it's not it's not
terrifying.
The scariest part of the Balrog is the bit that you just mentioned when. You see the light. Like you hear the roar, you see the light in the distance, and then all the goblins and orcs who you've just been terrified of scatter.
Yeah, and
they're
like,
oh God, what is there to come? But then after that, the music isn't terrifying.
No.
Howard Shore does more of a kind of adventure runaway kind of. That's like. Is that the music?
That's how it goes, yeah.
That's more like the hobbits running away from Farmer Maggot, no?
No, it's something that I'm just not doing a very good job.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I can hear the music in my head.
Mm-hmm.
But I heard something else. But yeah, no, that's kind of freaky. But also, I just want to hear if anyone else has an opinion on the Balrog, if you find that terrifying. Yeah, I think, for me and
obviously, it would have been scary enough the first time you see it, because you don't know how it's going to go. But on a rewatch, it's not. There's no jump scares. There's no moment where you're just completely terrified. Like, I mean, I just think, like, for example, going back to Nazgul's for me at Weathertop, it's just freaky. The music adds to it.
There's suspense. Yeah, and a lot of it has to go down to the direction of the movies. And of course, Peter Jackson was known for his horror films. He does, what does he do? Evil Dead? Is that one of them? Who knows? But he was famous before doing the Lord of the Rings for lots of different horror movies and horror side projects. And interestingly enough, we mentioned what's the name of the place where Aragorn sees the King of the Dead for the first time?
Isn't it called the I'm getting mixed up now. The Dimril Dale or the
Dimril Dale? Okay. Well, the Paths of the Dead. Before they get into the mountain, but like that whole path to the Paths of the Dead.
Dimril?
But anyways, they shot that scene in New Zealand, but Peter Jackson used that exact same area for another one of his horror movies. So.
Oh, I remember seeing that in the behind the scenes as well.
Yeah, so there you go. He's
using some sort of freaky area.
Yeah, it is freaky. It's claustrophobic and it's scary.
We've spoken about the whole. I mean, if you go back and listen to our episode on just the orcs as well, you'll hear us talking about how when you watch the Fellowship of the Ring, you kind of get this idea that the orcs are one particular creature, and then the goblins are a different creature altogether. That's certainly the impression that I got, and maybe that's what Peter Jackson wanted to show us. We find out that what Tolkien, his idea was just that orc was the one creature, and goblin was just one name. It was like one word that was
usually used by the hobbits.
The hobbits called them, like Bilbo always called them goblins.
Yeah,
he didn't really say the word orcs, but then that would be kind of like the new lingo that was being used.
Yeah, exactly.
And then like the older races, like the elves, would have always called them orcs and orcs. So they'd be like the orcs are coming, and
also Uruk is just the word for orc.
Uruk means in Orcish.
In Orcish, yeah.
It just means
black speech or in Orcish, or all the same. All the same ding dong.
So yeah, Uruk just means orc. So an Urukai is just another type of an orc as well.
It's the high orc, no?
Well,
isn't that what it meant?
High, it meant.
I thought it meant like
it was like the modified orc kind of.
Yeah, but doesn't it translate to high orc?
No, I can't remember. I just want to disagree with you. You're wrong. No, I don't think it translates to high orc because that would just be like.
This isn't an argument. That's just contradiction.
No, it isn't. No, it isn't. Yes, it is. So basically, what I was going to say was that it's weird. I like the way that Peter Jackson kind of gave them different feels and different looks, and the goblins they almost seem like they're kind of more greeny and kind of like frog-like and slimy. And again, maybe orcs were originally one kind of race, and then ones that went and decided to live underneath the mountains.
Yeah, of course.
They would just over time become their eyes would get bigger because they've got no light.
Yeah. All evolution.
Yeah, they would evolve in that way.
Tolkien was a massive believer in evolution, of course.
Of course.
No, but again, going back to our orc episode, they mentioned so many different versions of orcs in the book. They have like goblin men, half orcs and half men, and all this kind of weird lingo.
Hobgoblins,
yeah, hobnobs. But yeah, that's exactly right what you said. There isn't a different word for goblins and orcs, but I would like to think that orcs that live in the Mines of Moria look a lot different to orcs that live in Mordor and the ones that are in Isengard and even other mountains around Middle Earth. There might be just different types of looking orcs, and I think that's cool. But yeah, that was something that we mentioned before, that we kind of thought that there was a distinguished difference between those two, but not really. But the way they could climb walls as well, it's very ant-like. But yeah, probably.
Again, like I was saying, that one of the things that freaks me out about the first time we see Gollum is when he's kind of crawling almost like defying gravity down the slope of that rock face. Again, when we see these orcs just like scale up these pillars, it was also freaking. I think just that action of just some sort of a large creature acting like a spider and crawling up, it's kind of freaky. Like that really kind of makes me like feel unnerved and not safe, basically.
Yeah, no,
but that's freaky. Other one or two other honorable mentions that I do have are the character of Lurtz. Again, we know that we've spoken about this a lot before. We know he's not a book character. He's just a movie character that Peter Jackson invented. I think he did a good job. It was nice to have one kind of, focal point of the enemy. And this is the main guy. We can each focus on him. He was leading the armies and stuff. So that was cool. And specifically the scene of him spawning. Again, but that was
more disgusting than scary. But
gross. But then he comes up and he just like grabs some other guy by the neck and just strangles him to death. That's like his first action as like a live being.
And some other orc tries to save his friend, and then Saruman is like, let's see what happens.
Let him do his thing.
Let's watch this one play out.
So that's maybe it's more just gross than actually scary. But then my final scary scene or scary moment was the scary scene, scary moment, scary character, the Watcher in the Water.
Oh yeah. Again, music. There's a very specific theme for the Watcher in the Water that you don't hear anywhere else in any of the Lord of the Rings movies. And again, it always reminds me of playing that game in the Lord of the Rings game. Isn't it the Two Towers, where they actually mix in some of the Fellowship and some of the Two Towers stuff? And getting to play with the Watcher of the Water, getting to fight him. That was pretty cool.
That is class. And just all those tentacles just like, woo! You're like, oh my god. And again, it's like everything happens to Frodo. Like the cave troll stabs Frodo, and then when they're there, it's Frodo's leg that gets caught by the Watcher. Like, you know, there's lots of people like kind of go, well, maybe the ring attracted these things.
Well, yeah, no,
to
like
Frodo.
that's one thing that people probably would complain about, saying like, oh, why does it always happen to be Frodo, like the main character? But no, it is true that like all these evil creatures are always kind of drawn to the ring and drawn to Frodo.
Oh
so.
yeah, no, I'm not complaining about that.
Like,
But,
like you know, when the troll is searching for him, that's not just like coincidence, and he could have looked for anyone. He could look for Merry and Pippin, but no, it was Frodo, and I feel
that's
like
what you thought.
I know, yeah. But yeah, I do think it is because he's drawn to Frodo.
Yeah,
like a
and
moth
it's
to a
just
flame.
it's just a freaky scene as well. Like he's just such a, again, CGI, and well, a lot of that would have been prosthetics as well.
Which?
The Watcher.
The
like-
Watcher.
Like a lot of that was like they built a big model of that like Watcher, not the like arms moving and stuff, but like his
Yeah.
actual head. You know,
Oh, the head. Okay,
when
yeah.
it comes out of the water and it's like got
Yeah.
the big teeth and the yeah, just that whole head. I think they built that huge thing, or maybe it was small. I can't remember just the way it was shot. But and again, like no, the way like CGI would have been used as well. But again, intelligence in using CGI where it's at nighttime, it's
Nighttime, yeah.
dark, and there's a lot of things that aren't seen. And that just like your imagination can just fill in the blanks, and that's always going to be better than any CGI.
Yeah.
So really well shot, again well directed, and yeah, that was
Yeah,
pretty freaky scene.
It's very similar to, I think I've mentioned it in a podcast before, but the way that the Jurassic Park movie, the very first one, does the Tyrannosaurus Rex first scene, and it's at nighttime. The light is blue, which is much easier for visual effects because it's thundery storm, and also it's wet, it's raining, and having the kind of shine effect on creatures, CGI creatures, is much easier to do. So that's why when you watch like a modern Jurassic World movie, sometimes you're looking at a daytime dinosaur and it just doesn't feel that right, even though Jurassic
Yeah,
Park
it
was
was way
filmed
too perfect,
in the
right?
80s and it still holds up. It looks unreal.
90s.
80s?
Jurassic Park's 90s.
Released in 91?
Was it?
I don't know. Who knows? The first one, like I'm talking about the first one.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's 90s.
Right. Well, anyways, yeah. So same thing with the Watch in the Water. It's obviously in water. It's wet, so it's slimy and shiny, and then
Water
it's
is
at
wet?
nighttime. The water is wet. Yeah.
Oh Jesus,
Mm.
that's scary.
I know. Water is wet. But yeah, I don't know if we have any more ghoulish
As we
things
said
to
at the
talk about.
beginning, this is only a list of the movies, and specifically the 3 original trilogy.
Three.
Not even, we didn't want to go into the Hobbit movies either. We didn't want to go into the books because our list would get
Because the whole Hobbit movie is terrifying. The third one, anyways.
yeah, I left screaming.
I had to leave twice. Couldn't get through it. It was terrifying.
On the halfling! On the halfling!
But yeah, I think that's all we have time for today. So, folks, thank you so much for listening. And the main idea was just to give you our thoughts on what our scariest moments from the films are. But of course, we'd love to know what terrifies you from Peter Jackson's movies. So, drop a comment, drop it below, or else if you're not following us on YouTube, you can tweet at us on Mellon_Heads. That's Mellon with 2 L's.
Merlon.
And yeah, and we try to keep on top of the notifications there. So, if we don't respond to your first tweet, just tweet back again. But, sometimes we have lazy days and we don't catch all the notifications. But
Most of the time.
most of the time, like, about 20% of the time. Just kidding. But yeah, also I'd love to know what you guys dressed up for Halloween as. And was it like Lord of the Rings themed or Hobbit themed or whatever? And yeah, maybe you can let us know in the comments as well. Or else send us an actual picture of what
We
you
should have
dressed
done this dressed up.
Yeah, because we're on camera now. That's actually, I didn't think about
This is
that.
our first Halloween on camera. We forgot about it.
This is my Frodo
I
attire.
mean, you're terrifying right now.
Yeah, so, send us a picture of what you dressed up for Halloween if you dressed up. And if you didn't, tell us why you didn't dress up. And why you're such a loser like us.
Or maybe, I know it's early, but
Mhm.
it's never too early to start thinking about your Halloween costume for the following year. If you can think of any good Lord of the Rings based costumes,
Let us know.
that'd be cool as well. Or any that you
So
find
that we
online,
can do.
send them in. Or maybe next year, if we actually remember, maybe you guys can remind us as well. Let us know a couple of weeks before Halloween that we should do our Halloween special episode dressed up. We can try and get a scary Lord of the Rings themed costume. That'd be kind of
I'll
fun.
dress up as the Watcher in the water. But yeah, that's all we've time for today. So thank you all so much for listening, and until next week, goodbye and happy Halloween.
See you later, guys.